Run with Chestnut.
Cool. Today's episode of the Run With Chestnut podcast, we are going to talk about all things pandemic. Jesus Christ. Okay. Yes.
I don't like the cool today. It's going to be very annoying to edit that. So,
Why do you have to edit that?
because who starts their thing with cool?
We do.
I don't like it.
Why don't we just keep all of this in? Exactly.
It's going to hurt my soul.
Brilliant.
And, it's all up to me later. I have the final
So,
powers.
people didn't realize Melissa's the one actually editing the episodes. Anyway, today we're going to talk about the pandemic and how we, as people who are blind and visually impaired, get through the pandemic. For those who don't know, Melissa is an international person, which means we get a little insight on how international flights was back in March and April. When did you fly? March?
Yes.
Okay.
Early April, yeah.
Early April. It landed in March, early April. For those who don't know, I also flew from Florida back to New York in March. That was kind of interesting because a lot of people didn't know what was going on with the pandemic. And we are joined again with Simon, who's been on most, if not all, episodes. What's up, Simon?
Not much. How are you?
Very good. Simon's we're calling in from Brooklyn, New York. Yep, Brooklyn represent. I'm in Manhattan. And Melissa is in, where are you, Melissa? There you go. Where is that for most people who don't know?
It is in Eastern Europe, close neighbor to Italy, Greece, Croatia, Game of Thrones fans, woohoo, Serbia, etc., etc.
I will say that for those who don't know, Game of Thrones, King's Landing was filmed in Dubrovnik, right? Which is not capital of Croatia, but what would you call that?
Just like a very, like a tourist hub.
Yeah, a very touristy hub part of Croatia. And it was super interesting because when we were walking through the old town, I think I told you this, Simon, it's like super, super rustic, right? Like things are old, right? All like castles and turrets and stone and cobblestones and things like that. And then you turn a corner and it's this massive neon sign that says HBO official Game of Thrones store.
By the way, Melissa, I don't remember. Were you a fan of it? Did you watch it and read it or no?
I read. No, I did not read. Well, no, maybe I did. I don't know. I watched some.
We're breaking you down, Melissa.
Yeah.
What's your story?
I watched some, and then there was too much death, and I couldn't handle it, and there was no one else to make me, so I didn't.
There's a lot of pointless death.
Yes.
I watched the first 2 episodes. I couldn't get into it.
Yeah.
Did you try to read it?
Yes. And
how far did you get?
No, I read like the first prologue.
Just go to Dubrovnik. It's like the nice.
It's literally the same thing.
They just don't have as many cats as we do on the coast of Montenegro, but we're cooler than they are, so can't help it.
Gotcha.
That's right. Do you remember about the cat town, Simon?
Cat
in
town?
Montenegro.
Oh.
So there's in the old town of this city called Kotor. City, right?
Yeah.
Is that a city?
Yeah.
The area, geographical location within the country of Montenegro.
That is
there's
within a fort.
City.
Yeah.
It's a city called Kotor, and inside of Kotor there's an old town, and it's like a fort, right? There's like walls and barricades and whatever, like think old-fashioned castle thingy. And then you go inside, and there are like 50,000 cats just running around the streets.
Didn't you have a cat? Didn't you have a cat like sneak into your window or something, Melissa?
Through the door, front door.
Front door, yeah. Our cats are not, they don't sneak. They're just, dude, feed me.
So, like, are you in that town? Or no?
Not right now, but I was before, and like, yeah, there was a lot of neighborhood cats. They just walked in. My mom's not a fan, but when my dad was master of the house, the cats had a feast. So, yeah, but we're not exactly in town center, but I think that the cats are just like people like us. We're just gonna do our thing.
Interesting.
It's pretty much become a mascot. They're just like all the cats keychains and T-shirts, and like we love Couture with cats on it, and just a lot of cats, which is great because cats are awesome.
So you and your father share your love of cats.
But I think we digressed a little bit, which I mean is a good thing.
No, it's fine because Simon, it's a pretty funny place because when you sit and like you're having dinner at a restaurant, right? Like in the middle of the town.
Yeah.
You're like sitting, eating your food. And then all of a sudden, like on the ledge right next to you, like that you have your elbow resting on, a cat just like walks out on the ledge, just like sits there and looks at you. He's like, give me some food.
Yeah.
Nice. Interesting.
It's
And
very, very, very
they're
cat.
not afraid of people at all. They're just so used to, some locals feed them, others don't. And I'm sure, and unfortunately, this is like a topic that I could get more into given the free reign, but they don't really take care of them on like a medical level or like fleas and things like that, but which I hope someday gets changed. But so far they do at least feed them, and don't, kick them or just, they're kind of like, all right, you do you, cat. We're gonna do us. We'll talk. Where we can coexist. So they're very used to people, and it's not. There's no crazy attacking cats or anything. It's just very like normal. We just share the space.
I guess we don't really have that culture here in the U.S. But
honestly,
well, the
not
insane part
even
is
here
that
in
the place,
capital, just
the place doesn't smell.
yeah.
You would think a place with 50,000 cats smells like cat litter, but it actually doesn't. So, which means they have a secret place where they all go,
Yes.
which none of us know about.
Oh.
Yeah, so super interesting place. We should have a little party there. But anyway, the reason why we brought that up is because, Melissa, you flew internationally.
Yes.
And this was because you were in New York.
Yes.
And pandemic happened, school shut down. You're like, it's probably better if I'm not in here in New York.
Yeah, pretty much. Once the school gave the okay for summer and everything, I was like, I am packing and getting out of here.
So what was that like, flying during the beginning stage of the pandemic?
It was very empty. So I got in touch with the ambassador of Montenegro in the U.S., right? Is that how you say that correctly?
Yeah. Huh.
And he put me on a list. Well, actually, they had me on a couple lists that I didn't even want to be on, but that's a different story. Whatever, connections. And so I finally was like, yes, I do want to go. And so they said that I would need a document from them because I was flying to London on I don't remember if that was a commercial flight, but either way, the flight from London to Sarajevo, which is in Bosnia, and then to Podgorica, which is capital of Montenegro, that was not a public, flight. That was organized by the government to kind of round up all of the people from various places and to get them there. So, when I got to, actually, I think it was because there was actually an issue because the flight from New York to London was you could buy the ticket for that online. You knew exactly what flight number or whatever, but the other one you could not. And so I got a document from the embassy that said, please allow Melissa into the UK for a moment just to grab her bag, because they could not check my luggage to Montenegro because the flight did not exist on the JFK computers.
Wow.
They could not access all of that because the other flight is that called a charter flight? I am not very familiar with terms. So that was a mess because then even though we had our document that said, we worked with the embassy of Montenegro, UK, they were all obviously in contact, and please allow this person just to get their bag and then come back, because I think one person had a visa for the UK and no one else did. So technically under normal life rules, you're not supposed to leave the airport, because you could just walk out into the country. Yeah. And so when we got to JFK, they were like, no, we cannot let you on this plane because we can't check your bags because this other flight does not exist. And so after that was all figured out, the next issue was who is going to assist me. So because Montenegro is a small country and a lot of people know each other, especially my dad being in the field of diplomacy, the ambassador asked someone else someone else who was going to be on my flight to assist me, which I wasn't super comfortable with, especially because I don't know where they were from, and I don't I just would kind of prefer to keep to myself. But because they were so understaffed and there was practically nobody at the airport, we were the only flight that was there. It was so weird to see JFK so empty. And so they were trying to insist that I take the assistance of this person, and I was uncomfortable because I liked it when I don't like the obligation, you know what I mean? I don't like the person feeling like they have to keep track of me because they told the ambassador that they would. That just kind of it's very out of my control and well, you know, whatever. The person from the airline is paid, like they're doing their job, they're getting me to where they need to be, and they're fairly compensated for their effort, and so there's nothing for me to think about over there. And so I did insist, which was good because when I got to the airplane, the lovely British flight attendants were just like, yeah, we're going to put you in business class because you're alone and, you know, it's Corona and the plane is half empty. So that was nice. And again, after that, the whole London thing, they did check our document. It was a bit of a tricky thing. You know, we had to go take the trains that, you know, went from terminal to terminal. And then from, what was it? From London, we got our luggage.
You flew into Heathrow, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think only one terminal was even open, and it just, you know, everything. And then we caught our plane. I think they didn't even know when it was coming, even when we flew in. So everybody was just confused. And then the ambassador, the Montenegrin ambassador who works in England, was there trying to get this plane figured out and stuff. And so finally they got us on. They were able to check our luggage. And so we flew and we took off and we stopped in Sarajevo, like I said. We didn't have to get off, the people who were traveling to Montenegro, so we just waited for the other passengers to get off. I was a little bit uncomfortable because they took out all of the luggage, so that people just kind of, they didn't even go into the building. They just were, what do you call that, on the outside, you know, out of the place. To get their bags. And then they had to, I think, sanitize all of the luggage. And they put them all in a van and then just left. And then we kept on going to Montenegro. And I think when I got here, we were all supposed to go in quarantine, but because of my vision, but more so because of the fact that I needed Wi-Fi to finish my courses, and we weren't sure if they were going to have that in actual quarantine, I was get permission to do my isolation in an apartment that my uncle owned. And so while everybody else was getting put in a van when we finally got to Montenegro to go to some other town where they had the accommodations for quarantine, I just they kind of secretly, it was kind of like a very smooth secret operation. Let's just get her to her mom, because she wasn't even supposed to take me, but they didn't even have, she was supposed to have, I think, like a medical vehicle to transport me over, but she didn't know that because everything was so fast and hectic. So they were just like, you know what, just take her in the car and you just go and we're going to check on her. And because I don't have a local number, they had to text my mom, who then texted me to do the survey, how are you feeling, all that stuff. But yeah, and then I was in quarantine for a whole month, which was slightly boring, but also kind of great.
More than 2 weeks.
Yeah, it was, I think normally it would be 2 weeks in quarantine, and then 2 more weeks in self-isolation. But since I was already in an apartment, it kind of ended up being the same thing. And I think it was also because I guess I was international. It wasn't like I was in contact with, I don't know. I just thought they felt like coming from the U.S. Was higher risk. Actually, the person who wanted to, or who was asked by the ambassador to help me, but who didn't end up helping me, I think he actually did test positive. And so I was kind of lucky that I was being pushy. Yeah. I know, I think within the visually impaired scope of people, there's like a lot of debate, right, about when you should and you shouldn't accept help and all this stuff. But I felt like I was being a little bit pushy, but in this case, I was really happy that I did, because A, I got business class, B, I got someone at Heathrow who actually knew where they were going, and C, I got to stay healthy. So nice. Good for that. Very, very empty, very stressed, very tense, very much rule driven. Where's your documents? Like, are you allowed to be in here? Yada yada. But that was the process.
That's crazy.
Yeah. No, it's really cool, and it's interesting also to compare that to them because back then obviously like no one really knew what was going on, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Airlines were still like they were supposed to be distancing, but you could still fly, and you had like you had a row of 3 and 3, and you still had 3 and 3 people, right?
Well, by this point it wasn't, but I do.
I
get
mean,
what
I
you
know
mean.
there are people, at least domestically, there are people flying in May and June,
Oh,
where
really?
you could fly and they were not necessarily required to block off seats in between people or anything like that.
Oh.
So yeah, it was very spotty. Like some airlines would do it, some airlines would not. I was just lucky. Like when I flew back from Florida in March, it was still really, really early, but I basically was the only person in my row of 6, like 3
Oh,
and 3.
nice.
Wow.
So, but that was just because there weren't any people on the plane, not because it was a requirement, So, like, the most recent example I have of someone flying is I know some folks who went down to Louisiana to Tulane to like bring their kids to college because obviously, well, college is starting now. That's a whole other
Yeah.
topic.
Oh, yeah.
But they brought their kid, 2 kids actually down to Tulane, and that was like required. You have to have masks on at all times. Distance. They block off seats. You do not sit next to people who you're not related to. Like at this point, what is it? 5 months later or 6 months later? Like it's
Wow.
a pretty good system. But it's just like it's interesting to hear back then, like how just up in the air everything was,
Right.
literally and figuratively. Because the airline, yeah, you see what I did there. Okay. So Simon, you were not actually traveling anywhere. You weren't coming back from anywhere, so you didn't have to quarantine, right?
No.
So you just went from walking around one day to one day
Just being in the house all day.
What caused you to do that? Like, do you remember
Well,
what happened? Did you just decide one day with your family, like, oh, I guess we're not going out?
No. Well, so what happened was I was in the dorms, and then
Why do I keep forgetting about this?
that I lived
That you were in dorms, yeah.
Well, I was in the dorms, and then it was middle of March, like March 15th or 16th. My parents were like, hey, maybe you should probably come home. And everyone literally vacated the dorms by then anyway. So I went home, and for the first...
How much heads up did the dorm give you to clear out? Or how did...
Well, no, I had already went home before they did that.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but how much heads up did they give you before they sent you home?
They did.
Or before they closed down the entire... Because they closed it down eventually, right?
Yeah.
So do you know how much time they gave students notice?
I don't remember. I remember that I found the email like a few days before.
That's not a lot of time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so I went home, and then everyone started, like, I didn't really go anywhere the first few days, but then like New York shut down anyway. So like Francesco, you were in quarantine. Melissa left, Andrew was in quarantine. So like we all decided it's best not to see each other. And so there was a time period like in March and then like end of April where I stayed home for a whole entire month. And then I finally went outside like end of April just to take walks with my mom, maybe on the bridge. And then starting, I guess, like end of May-ish, early June, not even then, maybe like even later June and early July, when we started to see people going out again, eating. And what's interesting about that is, so when you go out to eat, they have outdoor seatings, but like before, when you had outdoor seatings, you can literally like, I guess, touch the table next to you. Now, when you go for outdoor seatings, you feel the distance between tables. Like people aren't really close to you. You're with your own family.
That's kind of good, actually, though, isn't it?
Well, that's the regulation now, right? You have to have 6 feet in between each table.
Well, yeah, no, but I just mean in general, like, isn't it better to just eat?
Yeah, it's nice having space.
Yeah.
It is nice having space, but it's not good for businesses.
Well, I'll say it's interesting because they are required to distance. Now they are able to build out into the street. So like in Manhattan, they'll shut down. So if you have like a like a 4-lane road or no wait 6-lane road, they shut down the leftmost one and the rightmost one, and let the restaurants build out outdoor seating in that lane.
I
So you
haven't.
basically have a whole series of tables
That's
where
kind of
cars
cool.
used to be. So it's if not equal to, then close to what the capacity was before, at least for the restaurants that are around me.
Oh, really?
Yeah, no, it's actually, and it's nice because again, yeah, like they built out these whole like gazebo little roof things, and they have little like wooden platforms that they built.
Well, that's true.
See
yes.
if the cafe scene takes off in Manhattan.
But then come fall and come winter, they're gonna have to close down again.
Yeah, but I think they're taking it one step at a time, right? Like if they did
Yeah.
not do that, they would not be around in the winter
Well, yeah.
to have to close. So
Right.
it's very, if anyone's like, if it's very European vibe. Mm-hmm. The whole outdoor, it's very very
It
like
is.
Champs Elysees. It's very
Like the in Brighton Beach, there's an area in Brooklyn, South Brooklyn, called Brighton Beach, and that's where a lot of Russian people live there. But if you go on a boardwalk, there's a lot of outdoor seating restaurants there, and a lot of like Russian places. So
Yeah, we were walking
Before-
actually the other day with my mom too, and here there's nothing but cafes, and she's like, "Do these people not know how to build anything more useful or smart? It's just people just want to go to cafes. That's all."
that's the social scene.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what's happening here because
Yeah.
like when you text someone to meet up, it's literally, it used to be, let's go out to the bars or let's go to someone's place, whatever. Like now it's like, hey, let's meet up at this outdoor seating cafe, which
Yes.
is very European, and let's grab a drink. And that's another thing. Before you were not allowed to have alcohol outside. Like
Really?
it's called like open carry laws. Like you weren't allowed to carry a bottle of alcohol that's
Why?
open on the street.
Huh.
That's maybe too young for you. Well, whatever. It was a law that is pretty much all over the U.S. Now, because you can only be outside, they relaxed that law. I don't know if they literally made it legal or no one's enforcing it, but now you can. So literally, you can grab drinks at a bar outside and just walk down the street,
Oh.
which is something that like you would never, you would not see that in
Actually,
Manhattan normally.
I never knew that was a law. Okay.
Yeah.
Huh.
So, but no, that's pretty cool, and it's kind of funny. Like around the corner where I live, there's this kind of cafe restaurant thing, and we kind of have a love-hate relationship with them because we're always like fighting over space and stuff. But it seems like every week, it seems almost like every week they expand one extra table down the street closer to our front door.
Right.
And it's like, one, like I'll walk up one day and it's like, oh, one more table expanded. And it's like slowly inching its way down the street until it gets longer and long. Yeah. It's like slowly infesting the area with their
Right.
tables and umbrellas that are 5 feet tall. And I'm 6'7" for those who don't know. And,
Yes.
basically face or neck level for me. So, not the friendliest situation.
That's okay. 'Cause wait, do you still have cookies on your block? This is a very important question. Please don't
Still
tell me they
cookies.
shut down.
Oh, no. I think
Oh, and
I have no idea.
good
Are
point.
they gone?
I don't know. I haven't been. That's my New Year's tradition. I don't go
Yeah,
during the
but
year.
if they're gone,
How am
we
I
gotta.
I don't. The only
we
way
got
I'll
a
find out.
petition.
No. The only way I'll find out if they're gone is if I show up at like 2 a.m. on New Year's morning and they're not there. That's how I find out they're not. They're not there.
But that's
Yeah.
no.
Yeah, I have no idea. It's up for you can check it out.
I wouldn't
next time
know,
you're around.
seeing as I haven't walked in that neighborhood in a while.
Yeah.
Last time I think was probably in January.
Yeah, long time ago.
Yeah.
I will tell you guys, I did so. Well, you guys know, but for those who don't know, I recently got a new MacBook, and in order to get a new MacBook, because it was like, my old laptop basically decided to have a conniption fit and just absolutely go insane on me, and
Aye.
it was not. Yeah, it came at me with a vengeance, trying to get
Yeah,
revenge
angry
for the
old
past.
man.
Yeah. The last 7 years that I put it to work, it basically like internalized all the abuse that I gave it and just dished it back to me. So it died very spectacularly. So I had to get a laptop very quickly, right? I couldn't wait for the shipping time. So I had to go to the Apple store. And I will say, I know most of you haven't been, but Simon, you haven't been to the Apple store, right?
No.
Obviously, we should have had Andrew on because he did go to Apple store. Maybe we'll
Yeah.
ask him next time,
At least
next
not
episode.
after pandemic. I didn't go.
Yeah. But so I am actually pretty impressed at the job that the Apple store is doing because first of all, you're only allowed in on appointment, right? So either a Genius Bar appointment or you have to make an appointment with like a one-on-one employee to go shopping. So you're not allowed to just go in and walk around. And before you walk in through the door, they temperature check you, like with a little scan on your forehead or something. And once you're in, everything is like, like before you get to any table, there are like 100 hand sanitizer stands just like lined up, just 100
Wow.
of them. No exaggeration, just all of them. It's like hand sanitizing your elbows, your shoulders, like literally everything. And then you walk up and like, they basically set up like a little pathway and it's pathway made with tables. And on the other side of the store people, and you can't come near them because you have the table in between you and them. Right?
Wow.
And you don't walk around. You just like stand there, talk to them, and then they'll bring anything you want to you, and then you leave. So it was actually like surprisingly well done. Like, and all the tables were spaced. Like the closest I was to another customer was like 10 feet,
Gee.
maybe more. I will say I did get myself some of those free AirPods. And it's pretty good, except for the 30 minutes that I couldn't find my USB-C dongle before we started recording this thing today. So besides that,
do you think other businesses should apply the same strategy that Apple's doing? I mean, before when March and April was when New York was a hotspot, all grocery stores in New York only had one person allowed, one person in, one person out.
no, they did not.
Really?
One person? No, dude.
That's
That would
what
take a while.
No. They had limited number of people in,
Oh, I thought it was one person.
so that when X number of people left, they would let the same number in.
Ah.
Just so they control. But no, it's not just one. No. It was definitely not one person in. No,
It's not what my parents told. Okay.
No. So they basically they took fire safety code capacity, right? And which is basically like how many people can you have at max at one time, right?
Right.
And let's say that was like, I don't know, 200 people in a Whole Foods or something. So then they took that and then took a percentage of that. It was just like 25% or something. And then that's how many people they allowed in.
Huh.
And then if there were extras, they made them wait outside. And so that when like 5 people left or something, they would let 5 more in.
I don't think they implemented that very soon.
No,
right?
it took like a month or so.
Yeah.
I think
to
it actually
that.
got here before it got there, ironically enough, which, yeah, that normally doesn't happen. That here, my mom was
Yeah.
telling me that they were doing that, and
Huh.
it was.
I don't. Yeah, I don't
remember.
remember when they did that. I think it was sometime in like early April.
Oh yeah. Ooh.
Right. And are they still doing that? Right now it's what at
No. Well, no. I shouldn't say that. Yes, they absolutely are because there is without fail. There's always a line outside of Trader Joe's.
Yes.
So yes, they are still doing that. I think because people are less panicked, there's less of a line.
Right.
So it doesn't seem like they are as much, but yeah, they are still doing that.
Have you checked food delivery services? Have you? I don't know if you've had the reason to,
They've
but I
gotten
know.
better.
Yeah.
They've gotten better. Yeah, in March, right? It was absolutely
Yeah.
like you could not get a single delivery thing scheduled,
Right. Even like
and
Instacart.
now, or even just like Whole Foods delivery or something
Oh,
like that.
yeah.
And now it's easier. The interesting part to talk about is, so us as blind folk, when we normally walk with people, right?
Yeah.
We grab onto their elbow, which is called sighted guide, or
Right.
is that called sighted?
Yeah.
No, it's not called
Side
sighted.
guide, yes.
Okay, no. There's a whole political correct whatever. There's another name for it now. We can call it sighted. It'll come to me. Melissa, all right. Melissa's studying. You're studying to be a visual teacher, right, or vision teacher?
Yeah, teacher for the
feel like-
visually impaired. Yep.
Yes, I feel like you should know
Well, in my defense,
Sure.
I did not do the navigation mobility class yet. Whatever.
Oh, you did. Okay, you didn't get to that part.
But
There's
I think
something.
they
There's an
understand.
argument where it's like a blind person can also be a guide, so it shouldn't be called sighted guide. It should be called human guide. Human guide. I think it's. I think
Ah,
this is
okay. I
called.
have heard that. Okay.
I
Yeah,
guess. I don't know. Yeah.
something like that.
Yeah.
Anyway, whatever. The point. That's not the point. The point is, if we're in a store, say we're going to Whole Foods, right? And
Yeah.
if it's just you,
Now you grab
you would
onto the
normally
cart.
ask exactly. You normally would ask a store person to help you do the like to walk around with you, right? And
Yeah.
if you can't see anything. Now, obviously, some store people just don't know or whatever. But like you don't really want to be grabbing onto some stranger. So, have you gone shopping, Simon, on your own? First of all,
I have. Yes, I've been to Trader Joe's
Okay.
a couple of times, and
how did that happen, or how did that work?
you just grab onto the cart and they wheel the cart and you.
So they're at the front of the cart and they like tow the cart around,
Yes.
and you are at the back
Actually,
and grab onto the handles.
Yes.
a
See, now that's a
mobility
good way to do
teacher
it.
of mine did actually say that is the way you should do it. Now, I've always gotten
I've
for
always
myself
gotten
not
an
enough
elbow.
to warrant a cart. I usually would get a basket, so I would usually hold on to the elbow if I remember correctly, but that was kind of a thing even before. So it's interesting that you thought about that you said that now, which makes sense because when I was still in the city, I was really hesitant to ask. It was like a couple weeks where I was trying to make do with what I had. It was kind of a mess, but that was actually a big decision maker in why I left because, like you said, the food delivery services were not doing things or were not delivering on time. Obviously, they were backed up. And so I felt very uncomfortable even asking someone because I didn't think about the cart thing. And so I thought that me asking to be guided by them would be kind of mean because I knew that I didn't really go anywhere. My classes were, a couple hours once a week and I had no reason to be outside anyway. Like even without everything that started it, I was in my room a lot of the time, but I know that they wouldn't know that. And so there was this really weird thing about should I ask, would they be able to refuse? I mean, that's their job, but would they feel like
Right, are
I'm
they
putting
worried
them
about
at
some
risk?
PR thing
Yeah.
where it's like,
So-
am I going to tell a blind person, no, you can't hold on?
Yeah. So
Right.
that
Yeah.
was, thank you for bringing that up. That's definitely good tip.
Yeah, well, I remember thinking about this. I did not go shopping on my own in the few months following March. So I wasn't really like, I didn't even think about this, right? Like it didn't even come up as a potential issue for me.
Right.
I remember the first time thinking about it was when I was on the phone with Andrew and he was going to he went shopping. And I just like, I don't know, it just hit me. I was like, wait a second, how are you going shopping without touching anyone?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's
And
so that was the first time. I think it was June that he did that.
he had the cart thing too.
I don't remember what he did. I think he had a basket, and I think he just he had the store person hold the basket, and he just
Right.
kind of followed along, just like listening to them, their steps, and
I feel
I
like.
don't.
Sorry, no,
Go
go
ahead.
on.
Go.
I feel
Simon.
like if anything will stick and like not go back to the way something was, I feel like that would stay on is
Well, holding onto a cart or
yeah.
basket, yeah.
It's good practice anyway, right? Like just the city being such a gross place generally anyway, I feel like it's a good thing for people to keep in mind. But what
That
I was
is
going to say is
true.
also that it does depend on the person too, because I can't remember for the life of me now where I was, but I know that someone did offer their elbow, not at the airport. Their
Same with
airport
me.
were annoyed with me that I did not want to go with the other passengers. So they were like, well, no, since, it's COVID, I cannot offer you my elbow. So you either go with the other person or you figure it out. So I just said, that's fine. I'll listen. And I also do have some vision, so I could see in the lighting that there was, but it also always does kind of depend on the person. And I did notice that they had gloves, obviously, the people working in the store,
Right.
which it wouldn't cover your elbow, but maybe if you had a shirt or something, I don't really know how germs work, but
Well, I mean, like, but then again, like, think about, because we can't always be that careful, right? Because in the future, when New York gets busy again, think about the subways or the bus. Like, we hold on to the poles all the time. So that's not going to be avoided. I mean, unless you
A lot of people don't, dude.
really?
You touch them all the time. I, for the most part, don't touch those subway poles.
Oh, you always just
Yeah.
balance?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
also if you have a cane, it's easier. It's like you have three
That's true.
feet.
Exactly. If you can, you have a third. They have like a tripod, man. Like you can just no, but you, yeah,
Yeah.
you always. But we've been telling you this for years that you touch a lot of things that you probably shouldn't.
Yeah, but I mean, I see a lot of other people touching the poles. Or
No,
I
they
feel
do.
Do
They
you?
definitely do.
Yeah.
There are people do, but there is a large percentage of people who do not,
Oh. Huh.
or who specifically like they'll bring a glove just to
Yeah.
touch the pole,
Wow.
or they'll wrap their sleeve around their hand just to touch the pole,
Yeah,
or like
yeah.
they'll
Sleeve.
you
I've
know
been
Okay.
yeah yeah definitely dude but a large percent, I would say, a majority of metropolitaners
Yeah.
were not that way. I'm assuming as things go back to normal, I think more will definitely become that way.
That way, in terms of
Wait.
what, like not touching
Being
pole?
more careful about not just touching something that thousands of other people could have potentially touched right before you.
Right. Yeah.
Um,
Makes sense.
Because I think the gap before was just education, right? Like if you explain to someone in vivid detail what could be on that pole, most people
Yeah.
wouldn't touch it. It's just
I
most
know.
people
Most people don't
didn't
think
either
about it.
know or they don't think about it. Yeah, but now they are forced to,
Yeah.
and so I'm sure a lot of them will keep that.
What about crowds? What do you think would happen with crowds?
What about it?
Like crowded subways? Like, you know how before you were able to
It'll
like,
happen.
oh,
It'll happen.
like being pressed up, sandwiched.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, I
happen.
mean, city has to run, and there's so many people there.
Yeah.
Though, I mean, a lot have moved out, but
They'll move
I
back
don't.
in.
Yeah,
It's
well,
New
some
York. Yeah,
possibly, but yeah, subway's a subway.
that's true.
So no, it reminded me. 2 weeks ago was it? We went to the beach.
Oh yes,
Simon
we
and
did.
I and
we
Andrew
did.
also went to the beach, and it was a whole debate of like, do we take the subway to the beach? And it's like, do we really want to expose ourselves that way, right? So we ultimately decided no, we were going to take
A car.
A car. One of or Andrew's folks drove. The two of us and a couple other people.
And I took a taxi.
Yeah. Simon took a taxi.
Oh, which by the
we
way,
got there. Yeah.
let me quickly just say,
Yeah.
you cannot be in the passenger seat anymore.
Oh, I know. Oh, you didn't know that?
No, I knew that. I'm just saying it like,
Oh, yeah, dude. That's
Yeah.
yeah. Since April,
oh, okay.
any taxi or Uber or Lyft or anything like that, you can't be in the passenger seat.
Right.
But anyway, when we got to the beach, the surprising thing was people were actually distancing on the sand,
Yes.
which I would not thought, because it was a lot of people. There were thousands of people.
There were,
on the
and you
beach.
could feel that there are a lot of people, but
And you could feel it, you could hear it, but they were all somewhat spaced out.
and they were within their own groups too. That's why it
Yeah.
also felt like there's a lot of people.
Which I will say directly contrasts to when I was in Jersey, where no one was distancing.
Oh.
Really? When were
Yeah,
you in
yeah.
Jersey?
The beach, July, June.
wow.
One
Somewhere
of those months. At some point, I was in Jersey and went to the beach, and similar situation, right? You feel there was a lot of people, but all crowded together.
Right.
And this was after. I mean, this was definitely like end of June, once things were kind of calmed down, right? So like people were allowed out and stuff, right? Like you had the little shops on the side of the beach were open again and whatnot.
Yeah.
But it's just so funny seeing the difference from where we went, Brighton Beach, which is Brooklyn
Yes.
in New York City, compared to a Jersey beach. Don't remember the name. It was, it was very weird as a New Yorker who's used to distancing. And then all of a sudden you show up and it's like, oh, and there's no space.
Or here, where the beaches, there's absolutely no tourism, and there's also other more local politics that now are discouraging tourism. because yeah, like a lot of people from Serbia or from the north, from other places would come here because it's cheap. There's even a difference between here and Croatia because it's more popular. So a large part of Montenegro's economy is the tourism, and so now there's no tourists anywhere, and so you can distance because there's enough space, whereas normally it's so packed that you're just stepping over other people's like
Oh yeah, I remember.
Towels and
towels
stuff.
and things.
The beaches in Montenegro are awesome, and it must be extra awesome not having all the
Yeah.
snooty tourists all up in the place.
Yeah. So,
Yeah, you guys must
But,
have
yeah.
very clean
I
beaches.
still find it funny that Serbia and Croatia, right, both neighboring countries to Montenegro, both larger than Montenegro, right, from a economic standpoint and a population standpoint. Am I right, Melissa?
yes.
Both larger than Montenegro, but Montenegro is the only one that's actually on the euro,
Oh yeah.
right?
Huh.
Yeah, Croatians
Serbia's
have
not
their
on the euro, right?
coons, and no,
Yeah.
they have their dinars.
Yeah,
Huh, interesting.
Montenegro is the only one on the euro, and that is a whole rabbit hole you can get down on internet research if you were interested in how that happened.
Or interview my
But
mother.
very, very fun. Or just talk to Melissa's mother.
Huh.
Yeah, that's funny. But no, I mean it's super interesting. I mean, it was it's and I think you don't expect there being that difference from two places that are so close to each other.
Right.
Yeah, but there also is, because I feel like this region could be like an episode on its own, honestly, but everybody's kind of clinging to their own country's identity, so even they're almost trying to, like we're Montenegrins, and we're not Serbians, and we're like they I guess there's
Oh, yeah,
kind of
everyone's
family
there.
stereotypes,
Yeah,
Montenegro's the
yeah.
lazy one. Croatia's like, oh, we're the good guys because we went into the EU, whatever. Well, I don't know, from how I'm seeing it, but just whatever.
No, definitely.
So
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how things, in terms of a distancing perspective, how they go forward, right? Because now we're getting to September.
yeah,
Schools are opening up, at least in the U.S.
uh-huh.
Right.
How are you going to distance when you have hundreds of kids all up in each other? Like, what are you going to do? Tell them to wear a mask and not go near each other? Like, obviously,
yeah.
that's not happening.
Yeah.
So,
Nope.
But then again, I mean, we only have this is August. We only have like a month. Oh, you mean are you talking about outdoor pools? Well, yeah, we only have like a month. And,
No, schools.
Oh,
Schools, dude, schools.
schools. I think you said pools. Sorry.
no, schools.
Yeah, that'll be interesting.
So,
they
Our
are
future
doing.
workplaces, Simon.
Well, no, they are.
That's right.
They're doing like a hybrid type thing where they're coming.
no, they are. They're alternating either grades or bands or cycles, right? But you
Right,
still
and-
have a bunch of kids together.
But yes, but they're also keeping, I think, each class separate from one another. Somehow.
Yes, but again, you still have kids together.
That's true. That's true. But I'm pretty sure the teachers
Right.
are gonna keep to.
I
telling
think there's
them
a
over and
reason why. There's a reason why there's a ton of teachers right now, at least in New York City, that are completely against reopening schools.
Mm-hmm.
over.
And the reason is because they know it's close to
Yeah.
impossible that once you have kids together and they spend a week or two together and they let their guard down, all of a sudden they're going to be up in each other's faces.
Yeah,
And then
Yeah.
people are we're social human beings. That's hard for, especially kids, to
Yeah.
remember these things.
Yeah.
Maybe high school.
Exactly.
Well, no, maybe high school kids. I feel like high school kids can
I
understand.
doubt it.
I
Really?
doubt it also, too, because think about how many people at first were skeptical just in the first place, right? Like when this first started, honestly, I will say that I was kind of like, oh. I mean, I
was
was talking
too.
to some people who were like very, very like, oh my goodness, the world is ending, So I was kind of like, but even then there were so many people who were just kind of like, this is a hoax, or this is like a government thing, or whatever that.
Yeah.
Dude, today I know people personally today that still think that it's a whole conspiracy and coronavirus.
I mean,
does
I
not
do
exist.
too. I do too.
Yeah. Right. So what does that tell you? Like, all it takes is one kid, right, who has it and doesn't adhere to things, and
Everyone else, I get. Yeah.
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 so back to I think we talked about this maybe like 15, 20 minutes in. I have some friends who went down to Tulane in Louisiana to bring their kids down to school, And Tulane is actually they're going. So check this out. This is like taking it to the next level, right? So the move-in day is Wednesday, right? They have to fly in on Monday, and on Monday they check in to the hotel, and they all have to get COVID tests, and those tests are fast-tracked, and they have to quarantine in their hotel room immediately after the test on Monday, all day Tuesday, and they get the results, as assuming that everyone is clear. They move in on Wednesday. They are allowed 30-minute slots to like move the kids in. They like alternate days, so they have they like basically no one's running into each other, right? And the parents have to leave like immediately right after that. And then on campus, they're building a whole bunch of outdoor classrooms, outdoor cafeteria seating, like eating places. So like you take your food from like a window thing, right? And then you go outdoors and eat it.
That's kind of cool, getting people to be outside.
Wow.
No, it definitely is. And again, like like classrooms that are actually built outdoors, like so they're doing like the best they possibly. The gym is like you have to sign up for slots, and they moved a bunch of gym stuff outside that like is able to be outside. So a school like Tulane is able to do that, but still, like you have one college party where everyone's people aren't really
right.
So I'm glad that they're trying. I mean, that's just one example, right? Because I know of the school, but I'm like a lot of other schools are doing similar things. I'm glad that they're doing it. I just hope that it lasts.
Yeah, everybody's so eager to open up, and it's like the slightest little inkling of things are getting better. It's like, okay, great, can we go outside now, please? Can we do stuff? And it's so hard to.
Well, okay, like for example, Melissa, our school, right? Our school is opening their dorms back up, but did you by any chance see the regulations to anything or what they're going to do?
No, I just know that they're going to open one dorm, which, by the way, was used to house patients earlier.
Yes,
and yes, I'm sure, it can live only for, what was it, Francesco? It can live for how many days? Or
people, no one even knows. Some people say 3-4 days. Other people say 17 days. Depends on what surface.
I'm sure they've also
would
do their job cleaning and all of that, but it's still, to me, kind of uncomfortable. What if there was that one place that you forgot to clean that I happened to get lost in, or so? I don't know.
But also, I feel like city schools, I always got this vibe that whenever I went to, like, especially when I dormed, like, I didn't get I feel like people there are a lot more. They'll be a lot more careful. I don't know. That's just a feeling I had. I think it all depends on the community and the location and the school you're in.
Well, yeah, but now they're only opening up that one dorm. So the people who would be in the other dorms, or I don't know, like maybe people who didn't even need to dorm before, but I don't know. I feel like there's such you can't really control that.
They might not even allow a lot of people into like one floor. I feel like they might limit the amount of people they have.
They probably close the common rooms.
That would make sense.
So people can't like mingle,
Yeah.
I don't really know how you do that at Brookdale, but
like take out all the furniture and stuff so people can't.
Yeah. But like then again, the kitchen. How are they going to monitor that? What if? I mean, the only way to monitor the kitchen is with
shut it down.
Okay, but then how are people going to cook? What? They just
order in? I don't know.
I guess.
It's one way to
dorm kitchens are always dirty, a big problem anyway. I'm not really too sad about that. I mean, I don't know. People do have to eat, but I don't know. Get a rice
It's funny
cooker.
you say, Melissa, that like the every little bit of excitement or every like tiny bit of good news, and people get absolutely excited, right? I think that's perfectly demonstrated in the whole like market situation right now. So a very dumbed down so basically you have a certain set of companies like Zoom, right? The video conferencing thing that we're actually using right now, which are viewed as like COVID stocks, right? And they are trading at such a high valuation right now that, I mean, I'm trying to give, they're basically trading at 50 times what they are projected to generate in revenue in 1 year. Like we're talking decades and decades of value put priced into the evaluate. I mean, I know it's complicated, but whatever. Basically, any tiny bit of good news, and everything just blows up like huge up. And same
Wow.
thing. Any little bit of bad news, and everything just comes crashing back down. It's such
Yeah.
a insane sort of situation.
Because people are
Yeah.
impatient.
Oh, people are very anxious. People are very impatient.
I feel like I have a feeling everyone's gonna have a huge party once this is all over.
But
I
see,
don't think
when is it over?
Exactly. I think there is no time where it's over. It'll just slowly go down and down and down, and one day it's just such a low thing that you don't really think about anymore. But I don't think there is going to be a time where on the news they're like, it's over, guys.
You don't think
Celebrate.
the vaccine equals over?
No,
Yeah.
because then it goes into distribution of that vaccine, right? Which is a whole other thing, and then it goes into is there going to be like a mutation or a second strain or
Or
like them announcing a vaccine does not mean all of a sudden all the problems go away.
yeah.
Yeah.
Because also,
I
what
guess.
if a vaccine doesn't work on everyone?
True.
You have a flu vaccine, people still get the flu. And
Yeah.
it's definitely an awesome thing to have. I'm not like downplaying the value of a vaccine, but it does not mean a miracle announced.
Yeah.
I'm sure. Listen. Everyone's going to be celebrating if they actually come out with a vaccine, right? I just don't think it's going to be like a on and off switch immediately.
Yeah, it makes sense.
There is talk about when there's a vaccine, there's like an order of who gets it first.
Yeah, I heard that too.
And they're talking like the most vulnerable, like elderly people get it first, which
Medical
makes sense.
responders.
Yeah, for essential workers get it first. It'll just be interesting how I want to see how the distribution happens because you got to imagine like this is one of the most they're basically shipping hundreds of millions of units of goods to like all around the country and around the world, right?
Right.
If it's around the world, then we're talking billions. Like even just from a logistics standpoint, that's got to be insane.
Yeah.
But anyway,
A lot to talk about with COVID.
Lots to talk about. We'll
Yeah.
see what happens. We'll see. I don't know. That's what's going on in my mind.
Yeah.
Any thoughts, Simon?
No. I honestly, I think one thing I'm really waiting for is to see how like gyms will reopen. Like that's my most.
Say again. What are you looking forward to?
Like seeing how gyms reopen, and not even not even regular gyms, but like martial art gyms.
I think it's gonna take a while, man.
Yeah.
I want to see regular gyms open, and how they do that.
I mean, I'm pretty sure it's kind of like, especially the email we got, like just making appointments and doing all that. Like,
it's not. It's that simple for you. It's not that simple for them actually executing it. Right.
Oh.
I'm curious to see from their perspective how the gyms do it. From a customer perspective, it's easy. Yes, you just show up at an appointed time.
I see.
But thinking about it from the business end,
Right.
because like a lot of gyms are profitable because they meet a certain like a minimum number of people on the floor. Now all of a sudden, if they have to cut the capacity, how like that changes their whole profitability equation.
Right.
I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what happens.
This could be across businesses, different models of, all of a sudden, like, grocery delivery, online ordering of food, old people, new people, tech savvy, not tech savvy. I feel like things are just, they're innovating so many things that might actually stick around and
Yeah.
Definitely. If you
how
look
things are
at,
done.
I think it was a study by Morgan Stanley, which is whatever they're in business. They did a study on how much acceleration in technological development was pulled forward just in like the COVID 4, 5, 6 months, right? And whether you go from adapting virtual software such as Slack and Zoom and Microsoft Teams, like virtual working everywhere, everything from that to online streaming, Netflix, Disney Plus,
Yeah.
Hulu, to gaming to all that stuff, they are basically saying that within 3 or 4 months, they basically saw the same acceleration that they were projecting originally for 3 to 4 years
Wow.
in 3 to 4 months, which is huge, right? Like,
yeah.
so, and I think we can all talk about how big of a difference that is, but we won't really actually, we won't see it until we kind of look back at the end of the year, even next year, be like, wow, like,
Yeah.
you know, like before I was going into work almost on a daily basis. Now, you know, even without COVID, so many meetings could just be done on Zoom.
I know.
Yeah.
So, you know, I don't know, man. A lot of ways we can take this, but it's interesting.
Yeah.
So,
Oh, yeah.
as long as they don't make us learn music over Zoom.
I know.
That'll be
No,
good.
that is a concern. That is. Yeah. I mean,
Well, we'll see what happens. I mean, I don't think they would prefer that either.
right.
You know, when we
Yeah,
can
exactly.
be online. So
What do you
Some
see
things are
theaters
good
doing?
online. I see them doing a hybrid. I think they still need to commoditize their product, right? I think there's a reason why they're not just letting people stream unlimited, like Broadway, for example.
Right.
But I think there is some value in allowing a certain small percentage of streaming.
Huh.
And I think how they figure that out will determine the success of that. I think, you know, you can't ignore it completely.
Right.
I don't know. We'll see what they do.
We'll see.
All right, cool guys.
Cool.
This was fun.
Yeah.
Another good episode done.
Yep.
yeah.
Yeah, that's about it. This is Run with Chestnut.
Episode.
We are on Instagram, Facebook, and hopefully Twitter by the time this episode airs.
Yes. Hopefully.
Having a little problem with Twitter, guys.
Yep.
If you go to Twitter and you go to @RunWithChestnut and nothing's there, clearly the problem has not resolved.
Yes.
And you can direct all your problems to Mr. Simon here.
Yeah.
Besides that, yeah, look us up, hit us up, let us know if you have any episode requests or suggestions, feedback. Leave us a review on Apple Podcasts, and that is it. See y'all later.
See ya.
Bye.
Bye bye.